Oh my God. Look who's here. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the 2024 NFL season to kick off in earnest tomorrow night. But tonight's week one of the pick show. And tonight feels real good. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here. We're ready to go. So I am live like 5 minutes earlier than I said I was going to be, which is okay. We're just going to give some folks a little bit of time to come into the stream before we get ready and get rolling here. So we're going to go and we're going to do all our fun things. We're going to go to Twitter. And let's see. We're going to do this. And we're going to retweet this and say live now. Bams. And we're gonna change the audience on that because Twitter is now an absolute cesspool. So we do that. All right. Cool. So she's going to be an interesting start to the season, I believe. Week one always tends to be a week that, like, we have the rule of 4 for a reason, and I'm starting on it nice and early. We have the rule of 4 for a reason, and that's because every week it's going to be at least 4. At least 4 betting underdogs are going to win week in and week out. Week one tends to be a week where you see more than the average. So usually you'll have anywhere between like 4, 5, maybe 6 betting underdogs will win their game straight up. And that's just like a normal week. Week one tends to be like 6 to 8. Like there always seems like there's a ton of betting underdog upsets in week one, and then Vegas undergoes like a wild readjustment over the next couple of weeks and things balance out. But they always seem to get got in week one. So we use this knowledge to our advantage and we try to move forward making the picks. Martin is the first one to speak up in the chat. Why is that not shocking? Martin, thank you so much, my friend, for popping in. And since you are the first comment of the new season, you are going to get your message pinned, my friend. First comment, first chat of the new season. Martin, how you doing? Thank you so much. No sunglasses for the NFL video. No, BA, that's, again, that used to be my thing. I thought it was cute. I would kind of pull it out for the CFL show yesterday. It's not really my thing anymore. I just kind of thought it would be a fun gimmick for the CFL show yesterday. All right. So we got this rolling. We're going to start this recording. And I'm going to pull my recording level way up because I have to always, or else this doesn't sound right. There we go. That looks better. All right. I would say we are just about ready to get this thing rolling. And I'm going to be watching this this YouTube player like a hawk because we had a couple of instances last year where either the stream audio stopped or my recording audio stopped or whatever it happens to be, something would always inevitably wind up stopping. So I'm trying to eyeball these things like a hawk as much as I possibly can here. Okay. Take a sip of water. I'm endeavoring to get this show done fairly quickly. Like, certainly compared to last year where the stream was basically 2 hours in week one. That ain't going to happen this season. I can guarantee you that much. And I also want you guys to let me know what you think of me moving this show to Wednesdays and keeping like the CFL show as the one to lead the week on Tuesdays. It's an experiment. I'm trying it this season. I think it'll I think it'll have the results that I'm looking for, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts. All right. Same journal, by the way. The journal returns. All right. Let's do that. All right. In 5, 4, 3. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to season 13, week 1 of my weekly NFL football pick show for the 2024 CFL season. NFL season. Oh no, there it goes. I screwed it up already. That's the kind of season it's going to be, folks. The 2024 NFL season and postseason. So we are here. It is my 13th season doing this for the NFL. My second or third season doing exclusively live streams, not doing these as videos anymore, because if this was going to be a video, that would not have made the final cut, obviously. We got some people contributing in the chat, which makes me super, super happy. Let's do some really quick kind of housekeeping here before we get into the picks for week 1 in the NFL. So, as always, as I've done, I think, for every single season of this show, I have a pick'em, an NFL pick'em through Yahoo Sports. And what I like about our pick'em that I feel kind of sets it apart from a lot of others is we work with the construct of confidence points. Ladies and gentlemen, confidence points, it is a stickler in every single one of my pick'em leagues where you assign a point total to how confident you are for particular picks. If you love a team in week 1, you assign them the most points you possibly can. If you think a team's going to win, but they're just going to kind of squeak it through, or your upset picks or whatever, you assign fewer points to those. I've exclusively used confidence points in my pick'ems over the years. I think it's the best true system to determine like really who's kind of on top of things in the pick'em game. So as always, I've got to pick'em, and I'm going to give you the information for it right now. So yes, once again, it is through Yahoo Sports. And in order to access this, you're going to want to go to the following website, and I'm going to put it in the chat after I give it to you here verbally. It is football.fantasysports.yahoo.com/pick'em/register/join group. So football.fantasysports.yahoo.com/pick'em/register/join group. All this information, by the way, is also in the description of the video on YouTube after the fact, as well as in the live stream right now. That information is down below. When you go to that website, it's going to ask you for a league ID and a password. League ID is 6831. And the password, as it normally is, just numbers 1 through 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Very simple. Tried to keep it easy, but something that like we don't get a bunch of like bots and repeat, who knows what can happen. So once again, you go to that website, league ID 6831, password 123456789, and again, all that information is in the description down below. Who do we got in the chat? We got Broken Ankle. We got Louie. We got Geo. Geo Knows is in the chat, indicating that he's driving, which means he is big mad at me for going live. Sorry, Geo. This is the time I said I was going live. Sorry. Pull over. If you were a real friend, you'd pull over to the side of the road until my show's over. So that's how you access the Pick'em for 2024. Again, it's my 13th time doing the Pick'em pools. I love doing the Pick'em. I hope you'll pop in and join us. One of the other major elements to my show every single week is Fantasy Corner. And I bring up Fantasy Corner now because it is sponsored, presented, brought to you by my great friends at the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Ladies and gentlemen, Dynasty Fantasy Football, I have to believe, along with like Superflex, has to be like the fastest growing form of fantasy football. Everybody loves redraft. Redraft is always going to exist. Dynasty is just that next level, building a team year in and year out, competitive year in and year out. The most authentic version of fantasy football, I believe, is Dynasty. And there are a ton of great tools and resources available to you online. But I think one of the best ones is the Dynasty Trade Calculator. And if you go down below, you're going to find my link to get access to the Dynasty Trade Calculator for as little as a cup of coffee. Ladies and gentlemen, for that cost, you can get access to one of the absolute best resources for Dynasty, keeper, and long-term fantasy football. It doesn't matter how your league is organized. Is it a PPR league? Is it Superflex? Do you have a tight end premium? Do you get a running back points per carry? Doesn't matter. The Dynasty Trade Calculator will adjust to the way your league is set up to give you the most authentic trade evaluations, player rankings. There's a ton of great experts on that site, ton of podcast resources, and making really effective use now of ChatGPT, of AI. AI influence in how you evaluate trades and everything like that. Like, the DTC is doing some incredible stuff. So you can gain access to the DTC at my link below down in the description. Join me on the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Like I say, they've helped me win championships. How many, you might ask? Well, I don't know whether you could see it. We added some hardware this year. This is the ring I've had for a few years, but this one, this bad boy right here, that's brand new. That's 2023 from the Ante & Co. Dynasty Fantasy Football League, which your boy won outright in 2023. A Dynasty champion for the second time in 6 years across those leagues. How did I do it? In large part due to the Dynasty Trade Calculator. So I ain't just blowing smoke. Now, what are you going to find in Fantasy Corner? Fantasy Corner all year long, I'm going to be talking about my fantasy football leagues. I'm in 8 fantasy football leagues this season in 2024, as well as 4 best ball leagues. So the best balls will just kind of be talking about where I am, sort of thing, like just sort of where I am, like placement wise throughout the year. A couple of those best ball leagues are paid best ball leagues for the first time. I've been playing best ball for a few years, but I'm kind of getting into some of the paid leagues now. So we'll be talking about best ball a little bit. Really, what I'm going to be focusing on are the 2 dynasty leagues, obviously, as part of my 8 full, year-long fantasy football teams. Again, 6 of them are redraft, but really focusing on the 2 dynasty leagues, those being the Professionals Dynasty Fantasy Football, which is my dynasty league, and Ante & Co., where I'm trying to defend that championship. Now, in the Professionals, again, both of these leagues, we've both had our rookie drafts or keeper drafts, whatever you want to call them, because Professionals is kind of a hybrid dynasty, deep keeper, whatever you want to call it. In both of those drafts, your boy managed to grab Xavier Worthy from the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm feeling real good about how both of those dynasty drafts went. In the Professionals, my top 3 picks, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., and Adonai Mitchell. So those rookie wide receivers, boom, 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 with my first 3 picks. With Anthony Richardson coming back from injury, and I have a second first-round pick this year as well due to a trade sending Mike Evans to a league mate. I have 2 first-round picks in that league. Feeling real good about the come-up here in 2024 in the Professionals. In Ante & Co., my top 3 picks, Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, as well as Adonai Mitchell. And I really wanted a lot of investment in Adonai Mitchell this year, especially in the Professionals where I've got Anthony Richardson. But I felt really good about the way that these 2 rookie drafts went this year. So we're in excellent shape there. A couple of other moves. I did manage to grab JJ McCarthy at the tail end of that rookie draft, grab him, stash him on IR. Obviously, he would be a piece for the future for me at quarterback. Also made a trade in that league, sending Alvin Kamara to a league mate in exchange for Jordan Addison. So getting a little more wide receiver help there. My running back room is fairly strong. So felt that I could kind of take from that a little bit to improve my wide receivers. So again, we're going to be talking about fantasy football all year long. That's just a little taste of what you're going to get in Fantasy Corner. And like is the case every week, you can go down to the description of this video or again of the VOD of the podcast episode, wherever you interact with this show. And what are you going to find there? You're going to find a lot of things. You are going to find all of my picks, or my results from last week. Sorry, not the picks, the results from last week. You're going to find all of my straight up against the spread and over under plays for the week in question. You are going to find information on joining the Dynasty Trade Calculator. You are going to find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page, which is where we talk football all week long. You are going to find all kinds of fun stuff down there. And check the description every single week. That's, again, all the results, all the picks, everything for you is right there. All right. We're 15 minutes into this bad boy already, at least on the live stream portion. Let's get to the picks for NFL Week 1, as well as a little bit of a season preview. I'm not going to give you too much because honestly, like there's a million and one resources out there that's going to give you big season preview for 2024. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that's me wasting your time. The season literally starts tomorrow. But what I am going to talk about is kind of the way I'm power listing the league, or power ranking, I guess, the league going into the beginning of the 2024 season. And like we did last year, I don't think straight power rankings, at least in a traditional sense, I don't really love the idea of power rankings. I do, however, love power tiering. And what I mean by that is this. Like, rather than sitting there and trying to decide, like, who is the sixth best team? Who's the seventh best team? Why is team 6 ahead of team 7? As far as I'm concerned, that's basically irrelevant. But if you take the teams and put them into tiers, I just think it makes a lot more sense. So I have 4 tiers, just like I did last year. And I'm looking at teams that are truly elite, teams that are playoff contenders, teams that are on the fringe, and teams that are on the bottom. That's the way I'm ranking it. A team is going to fall into one of those 4 tiers based on basically my impression of them, how they came out of last season, how I feel they're coming in to 2024. So here's the way I power tier the league heading into 2024. Then we're going to get into the week 1 picks. We're going to start with the bottom and the teams that I believe are on the bottom, and I don't think are going to make a ton of noise this year. Those teams include the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos, the New York Giants, the Washington Commanders, even though obviously they've made a lot of change in the offseason, especially in the draft, the Carolina Panthers, and the Arizona Cardinals, even though everybody's making a ton of noise about them, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think those 6 teams are the 6 teams that are really going to be kind of in contention for the first overall pick, high draft pick. Don't think they're going to make a ton of noise this year. Doesn't mean they can't win some games. I just think that's like the bottom tier, the bottom rung of teams entering 2024. We then move to teams that are on the fringe, and it starts with one that I think is getting a lot of hype. A lot of people are talking about, oh, this team might make the playoffs. They might challenge for this division. The Chicago Bears. They have made a ton of change. Also, especially on the offensive side of the ball. That defense is not bad by any means. I still don't look at them as a legitimate playoff contender. Not just yet. We got to see how those changes result on the field for the first 3 to 4 weeks. Maybe I might change my tune. Other teams on the fringe, the New York Jets. I mean, they did get Aaron Rodgers back. I think that defense is going to be good, but I don't necessarily know that they've, again, taken that step forward. The Minnesota Vikings, maybe I might have felt differently if J.J. McCarthy didn't suffer that season-ending injury. The Cleveland Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams, even though a lot of people are talking about the Rams as like a Super Bowl contender. I don't particularly see it at this point. The New Orleans Saints, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Los Angeles Chargers, despite the fact that it's hashtag Harbaugh season. Once again, don't really see them as a playoff contender. But speaking of playoff contenders, that's the tier we're going to look at now. Teams that I believe are legitimate playoff contenders for 2024. In the AFC, Buffalo Bills, despite the losses they've had on offense, Houston Texans, the Miami Dolphins, the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to get some pushback on that, I think. And the Cincinnati Bengals, because it looks like the Jamar Chase thing is going to get worked out. Then in the NFC, on the other side, Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions, my Green Bay Packers, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Originally, I had Tampa Bay and New Orleans kind of flip-flopped here, but I believe Tampa Bay is just that little bit better than the Saints are. So I flip-flopped them before we went live. And that means the 4 teams in the NFL that I believe are truly elite, the 4 true Super Bowl contenders entering 2024, look like this. The Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Dallas Cowboys, who I think I'm going to get some pushback on, and the San Francisco 49ers. Those are the 4 teams that I believe are truly elite and who are truly Super Bowl 59 contenders coming into the 2024 season. Now that we've got all that out of the way, let's get into why you're here. That's the picks for week 1 of 2024. In the chat, we've got Gio, 5 minutes from home. Made it home safely. Texting and driving on the highway. I would only do that for your show, JR. Thank you kindly for that. Gio also chimes in saying the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. You heard it here first. Wow. That is bold, my friend. Here we go. NFL picks, week 1, 2024. I'll take one more sip of water. And let's get started. So we're going to start with that Thursday night game, the opening game to the 2024 season. That is the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Kansas City to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. Obviously, this is a battle right up front of 2 of the 4 teams that I just put in the truly elite tier. So look, I don't think you could ask for a much better matchup to start the season in the NFL. This matchup is incredible, and I can't wait for it. Chiefs are favored by 3. Total's 47. The one thing I feel really good about with this game is it staying under that total. I honestly, even though these 2 offenses are so good, if you look at these 2 defenses, both of them in terms of the metric that I really like, which is efficiency on the defensive side, defensive efficiency, both of them were top 10 last year. Baltimore was the number 1 most efficient defense in the NFL last year. My metric is an 18.3. They were, as far as I'm concerned, on a yard per yard basis, the best defense in the NFL in 2023. I don't see how they've gotten objectively worse. I think they're just about the same, if not a little bit better. I actually like the Baltimore Ravens. How's this for a punch? Right in the mouth, right from the start. I like the Baltimore Ravens to go into Arrowhead and win this game straight up. Give me the Baltimore Ravens on the road in Kansas City. I'm sorry, Taylor. They are going to go in and they're going to beat Travis Kelce and the Kansas City Chiefs. Give me the Baltimore Ravens to win straight up. Give me the Ravens plus the 3 points. I'm totally happy with that. And again, give me the under on that 47 points. Give me a 23-21 final. Ravens win. Ravens cover. Under on the points. Gio likes that one. Good call, JR. Appreciate you. Now, before we talk about the Brazil game, because the Brazil game is a Packers game, which normally I would put kind of in my secondary slot, we're going to go through a couple of the 1 p.m. games before we double back and do the Packers and the Eagles. Let's go to New York. The Minnesota Vikings are on the road in New York taking on the Giants. This is a battle of a team I just put in the fringe versus a team that I kind of put on the bottom. And again, the big storyline for the Giants, bringing in Malik Neighbors in the draft, but losing Saquon Barkley to a division rival. Looks like it's still going to be Daniel Jones at quarterback, at least to start the season. Again, my expectations for the Giants are not very high this season, obviously. And again, they would have been higher from Minnesota had the JJ McCarthy injury not happened. I still believe Minnesota goes into New York and gets the win in this game. New York is a marginal home dog, which almost made me pull the trigger on one of those rule of 4 upsets, but where I was already taking Baltimore, which is an upset win, I was like, I think Minnesota is going to go in and win this game. I think Sam Darnold can win this one. So let's take the Minnesota Vikings on the road in New York to get the win over the Giants. So obviously on the line, I like Minnesota to cover that -1.5. It's a small price to pay. Let's lay that 1.5. Total in the game set at 41. I think this is going to stay under. It's a pretty good number. I think this is going to be probably right around where this winds up. But like a 24-13 seems fairly reasonable here. I think Jefferson gets into the end zone. I think you might see Aaron Jones get into the end zone. But again, no offensive fireworks here. So 24-13 final. Vikings win. Vikings cover -1.5, under on the points. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins at home playing host to the Jacksonville Jaguars, a matchup of a true legitimate playoff contender in Miami and a team that in Jacksonville I think is kind of more on the fringe. The one thing I will say about Miami is last season, they were the purest definition of a glass cannon that you could possibly have. They were a top 5 most efficient offense in the league. Obviously, high scoring, a lot of yards, like fireworks. Their defense was atrocious from an efficiency perspective. They weren't the worst in the league, but I think they were bottom 5 in terms of efficiency. So, like, man, that defense was not good. And I don't really see how the defense has gotten better. Also, I just noticed this like 20 minutes before we went live, maybe. Look at the injury report for that game. For the Dolphins, it's like a laundry list. Like it's almost everybody. And a lot of it's like vet rest. And I'm like, it's the offseason. You haven't even played a game yet. You already have guys on vet rest. What's that going to look like week 9, week 10? Like they're not going to have anybody on the field. I do think the Dolphins are legitimate playoff contenders. Part of that is the division that they play in. I actually like the Jags in this. They're not a tremendous road team, but I like Jacksonville to go in there and punch Miami in the mouth right from the start. Give me the Jags in the upset. A team that I've maligned for a number of years in Jacksonville, but give me the Jags to win that game outright. Jacksonville goes into Miami and beats the Dolphins. On the line, Miami's laying 3.5. Give me that +3.5 on Jacksonville all day long. I was never going to buy that extra hook. Anyway, I like Jacksonville to win the game outright. Total in the game set at 49. Give me some offensive fireworks here. 28-24 in favor of Jacksonville. Jags win outright. Cover against the spread. Give me the over. Division matchup coming up next, the Carolina Panthers on the road in New Orleans, taking on a Saints team that, once again, I almost put as a playoff contender, but decided to bump them down into the fringe. Carolina, still a team that I think is firmly on the bottom, kind of looking to try to work their way up. I think they're going to be better this year. Bringing in a guy like Deontay Johnson, I think is very good for that offense. Yeah, they're not going to have Jonathan Brooks for the first 4 weeks. Chuba Hubbard is a very good running back. More than a serviceable RB1 for the first 4, 5, 6, 7 games of the season. And then they kind of really get into that platoon there with Brooks. Carolina is going to be more capable on the offensive side this year. I really feel like Bryce Young is going to take a step forward. However, division matchup, I almost took this as an upset, but I do really believe in that Saints defense. They've got a bunch of impressive weapons on the offensive side. I think Chris Olave, wide receiver 1 season, is inbound in fantasy. So let's take the New Orleans Saints to get the win against a division rival that they should beat. Let's take the Saints at home to get the win over Carolina. On the line, the Saints are laying -4. I'm going to go ahead and lay that. If the Panthers were a little better on the defensive side, I might have looked at hedging my bets there, but I'm going to take the -4 on the Saints. Total in the game set at 41.5. Got to go over on this one, I think, but I don't think it's going to fly over. I think this is a pretty darn good number. Give me like a 26-17. 26-17 final for the Saints. They win, they cover, and a very marginal over on that 41.5 point total. And the last one we look at before we go back to the Brazil game is the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road in Atlanta taking on the Falcons. I'm a big believer in the Atlanta Falcons this season. I think bringing in Kirk Cousins, it's good in the short term. He's not the long-term answer at quarterback, but if they're trying to win in the next couple of years, they don't really need the long-term answer. They just need a guy that can put up big numbers. Kirk is good at putting up big numbers. Bijan, Drake London. You've got young offensive pieces looking to take that next step forward. Tyler Algier, who I really think is an underrated guy in the backfield. So I really like the prospects of this Falcons offense this year. Defense, I don't really know how I want to judge them. They were okay last year. They were under the league average in terms of the efficiency metric that I like to use. They were okay. Pittsburgh, what are we doing at quarterback, guys? That's going to be a really interesting question to ultimately answer. Like, is it going to be Russell Wilson in the long term? I don't think so. You brought in Justin Fields for a reason. I'd like to see him start some games. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. Give me the Falcons here at home. Let's take Atlanta to get the win over Pittsburgh. On the line, the Falcons are laying -3. I like them to win. It's a relatively small price to pay. Let's lay the -3. Total in the game set at 42. That seems like a really beatable number, but man, this Steelers offense was not good last year. So I think I'm going to go under on this. I think the Steelers on defense can keep this game under that point total, but I still think it's like a 2-possession win for Atlanta. So we're going to go 23-13. So Falcons win, Falcons cover the -3, but give me the under on the points. All right, let's check in on the chat here. Gio, best D in the NFL, talking about the Jets. Gio, Baltimore covers against Kansas City, could even win straight up, like you said. Vikings, Giants might get canceled due to poor quarterback play, or as you like to say, Gio, lack of interest. That's a possibility as well. Matt, the NFL fanatic, is in the chat now. Hey, Matt, thank you so much for popping in. Vikings, Giants is the cruddy toss-up game of the week. Probably true. Geo, Dolphins overrated. Did they even beat one team with a winning record? That I don't know off the top of my head, but they may not have. That's definitely a possibility. Geo, Panthers are terrible. Hubbard is a bum. No, he's not. He's Canadian. You're supposed to have more support for a good Canadian boy than that. Matt says Kirk Cousins is the total definition of mid. Maybe. He can put up numbers. He can put up big number. That's kind of all that matters. That's kind of what they need. Pittsburgh has the worst starting quarterback and the worst backup quarterback in the NFL. That comes from Gio. All right, let's go back and look at that Brazil game, which is a game that's going to be taking place on Friday. The Green Bay Packers against the Philadelphia Eagles, a matchup of two teams that I have as legitimate playoff contenders this season. Philadelphia, obviously, their big exit this offseason was center Jason Kelce retiring. For the most part, they're just returning the vast majority of that really good team from last year. The Green Bay Packers, again, their big acquisition was Josh Jacobs. Out goes Aaron Jones. I do think that's an upgrade in the run game. I'm really interested to see what Josh Jacobs is going to do in a Packers uniform. I saw a really interesting statistic on Twitter that throughout his career in, I think, 200 some targets and 170 some receptions or something like that, Josh Jacobs has still yet to score a receiving touchdown. That seemed wild to me that in that kind of volume, he's never actually had a receiving touchdown. I'm willing to bet with Jordan Love that streak probably breaks this year. In saying all that, I've had a score pegged in my head for this particular game for weeks. I can't get it out. I'm just going to have to go with it. The Philadelphia Eagles win this game 27-26. It's been in my head for weeks. Can I explain it? Not particularly. But Philly 27-26 is what's been up here, which means I like the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game outright, but I like the plus 2.5 on the Green Bay Packers. It is such a terrible hedge. It's like it's an all-time bad hedge where it's only 2.5 points. But that's the score that's in my head. So if that's the score that happens, that's the pick. So we're going with it. Eagles win outright, but give me the plus 2.5 on Green Bay in a really bad hedge. So if it's 27-26, that means it's going to go over the 49-point total. Offensive fireworks, Hurts versus Love. You can't ask for much more than that. You got Hurt and you got Love on opposite sides. What more do you want? So 27-26, Eagles win, Packers cover over on the points. Patriots at Bengals is up next, and this is a matchup of what I think is a legit playoff contending team in Cincinnati, even though I got question marks about that defense, and a team that I think should be in heavy competition for the first overall pick, which is the New England Patriots. That O-line is not going to survive a full season. It's just not, and that's probably why Drake May is not starting. We'll put it that way. Bengals all day in this one. They are the heaviest spread of the week, which is -8 for Cincinnati, which feels like a lot of points in week one. That's really one that I really wanted to hedge on. But the idea of this being a 2 to 3 possession game is not crazy. So -8, once the games are said and done, could feel laughable. You know what I mean? So I'm going to kind of do this and hold my nose a little bit and lay the -8 on Cincinnati, especially again with the Jamar Chase situation looking like it's coming to its conclusion. Total in this game set at 41. Even though it's so low, I like the under in this. I think the Patriots might get to double digits. I have no reason to believe Cincy won't get to mid to high 20s. So give me the under on the 41-point total. We're going to go like 28-10, something like that. Cincy wins, Cincy covers, and under on the points. Up next, we have the new look Arizona Cardinals, at least on the offensive side of the ball, somewhat new look, in Buffalo taking on the Buffalo Bills. Now, this is another team that's kind of new look, as you know, Stephon Diggs goes out the door. They replace him basically with Keon Coleman, who seems like he's in line for like wide receiver 1 duties for Josh Allen. So he may have been underdrafted in fantasy this year. Like Keon Coleman probably should have been on more people's radars, but that's obviously a downgrade on the offensive side. Don't really know what we're going to get from them out of their run game, even though Josh Allen has a decent floor when it comes to rushing from the quarterback position. So I don't know. Like, I think their offense is going to regress a little bit, but is it going to regress a ton? Probably not. Arizona, on the other hand, again, I've got them as a bottom team. Like they're down in that bottom tier, but they're bringing in Marvin Harrison Jr. That's a big upgrade to the receiving core. Ideally, a full healthy season of Kyler Murray. They've got a run game. They brought in Trey Benson, who I think will be an excellent backup to James Conner, who could get starting snaps. I think Arizona takes a little step forward. I just don't quite think they're ready yet. So we're going to take the Buffalo Bills here. Buffalo wins this game outright. At home, Bills beat the Cards. Now, the Bills are laying -6.5. I don't like that. I feel that feels like bait. That feels like a trap. Because it feels like a line you're supposed to look at and go, less than a touchdown, sign me up. And maybe that's ultimately what you should do, because this Cards defense, not very good. there's just something feels fishy about that line. So I am going to hedge my bets here because I think Arizona offensively can keep up in this game. So Buffalo wins outright, but give me the +6.5 on the Arizona Cardinals. That's the way we're going to go here. Total in the game set at 48. This is probably a game I should go over on, given what I just talked about. Something tells me it, again, that's another total. That's another number that feels like a trap. Feels like bait. Feels like less than a 50. Sign me up. Give me the under. Give me the under on the points. 48. We're going to go like 24-21. Still think Buffalo wins. Give me the under and give me the +6.5 on Arizona. Division matchup now of the AFC South. We got the Houston Texans in Indianapolis taking on the Colts. Two teams that I believe are bound for the playoffs. Depending on, kind of how the quarterback position goes, I think could ultimately dictate who winds up winning this division. I genuinely think this is like a 1A, 1B. Everybody's on the Texans, and I totally understand why, but like I want to see that happen again. Yeah, the Texans on offense was an incredible story last season. Let's see it again. Let's see whether that happens a second time. I actually really like the Colts here. I think the Colts defensively were not great, but I don't think they were quite as bad as a lot of people thought they were, although like the efficiency metric has them in the bottom 10. I think they take a step forward there this year. They get Anthony Richardson back. That should be a big step forward for them on the offensive side. And look, in terms of young quarterback matchups, CJ Stroud versus Anthony Richardson in week 1, hook that right to my veins. Like that's the quarterback matchup that you'll want to see in week 1. That's fantastic. Give me the Colts to win this thing in the upset. So like the Colts to win outright. Give me the +3 on Indianapolis there. If you want to go Houston -3, I totally get it. It's only 3 points either way, but give me the upset and give me the points. Let's take a shootout in this one as well. Total's 48.5. There's no reason that this game shouldn't get up into the 50s. So let's take like a 31-28. Like this game could push 60. So 48.5, no problem at all. Give me a heavy over on that total. So Colts win, Colts cover, over on the points. Then we've got the Tennessee Titans and the Chicago Bears. So obviously the Bears with a wholesale change on the offensive side of the ball this offseason, drafting Caleb Williams. They also draft Rome Odunze. They bring in Keenan Allen in the receiving game. They've got DeAndre Swift now in the backfield. Wholesale change on the offensive side of the ball. And the Chicago Bears will be better. They will be dangerous. They will make some noise. I saw this stat maybe 15, 20 minutes again before I went live. I was cruising Twitter trying to get in the headspace, right? And it was a stat about rookie quarterbacks in their first start, I think, over the last few years. And I think it was like 0-14-1 straight up and like 1-14 against the spread. Crazy low bad numbers. And the Bears are 4-point favorites in this game at home to Tennessee. And I'm not saying necessarily that they shouldn't be 4-point favorites, but man, oh man, that's real bad. Now, granted, like, or maybe the stat was about first round quarterbacks or something like that. But it was heavily against those quarterbacks. Now, granted, a lot of those teams didn't make as many changes as the Bears made this offseason. But when you're a team that makes a lot of changes, you also have to ask, how are those changes going to actually work on the field? How are those changes going to show up on the football field? It's an interesting question. My opinion is the Chicago Bears lose outright at home week 1 to Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans. I think this Titans team, even though I put them as a fringe team, which is where they belong, I think this Titans team is completely, utterly under the radar this year. Wholesale under the radar. Because as soon as Derrick Henry leaves, everybody's like, well, that's it for the Titans. Titans are in rebuild mode. They bring in Tony Pollard. They've got Tyjae Spears. Will Levis in his second year, I guess it is. I think there's reason for optimism there, and I think that Titans defense is a little bit better than people are giving it credit for. I think the Titans win some games this year that people don't think they're going to win, and it starts in week 1. Give me the Titans to win outright in week 1 in Chicago over the Bears. So, Bears as 4-point favorites. Give me the +4 on Tennessee all day. Like them to win the game outright. Total in the game set at 45. I'm going to take the over here. Could be a last-second field goal. Maybe Tennessee walks them off in Chicago. Just more like heartbreak and mental weight on Bears fans. So I apologize for that up front. But give me like a 26-23. Tennessee wins. Tennessee covers. Give me the over on the points. Take a break here to get caught up in chat. Let's see. Broken Ankle says Houston versus Atlanta Super Bowl. Ooh, you're going to make a real friend out of a guy named Chris Carter. He's going to be very happy at you. Gio, they shouldn't be playing that game in Brazil with that political situation. Not cool. Yeah, I mean, Brazil for a lot of years has been a country where there's been like a lot going on. So I understand where that comes from. Take Jacobs as your top running back in fantasy. I have Jacobs on a couple of teams, I think, between redraft and best ball. Pat's defense is really good. They won't score those, so take the under. No worries. Cardinals were really tough out last year. They had a lot of high draft picks. MHJ will be offensive rookie of the year. Buffalo lost their top 2 wide receivers. Buffalo doesn't make the playoffs. Ooh, that's spicy. The Bills not making the playoffs? I like that, Gio. I like it. Bills -6.5, the ultimate trap number. Thank you. Upset of the week. Ooh, like that. I like Arizona on the upset. I'm riding it all the way. That's from the blind Canadian Cat. How you doing, Cat? Welcome, welcome. Danny Finns fan says, what's up? Danny, I'm glad you came in after I picked against your team. I appreciate that. Gio says, take Indy and the points. Home division dogs are the single best bet in the NFL. Will do. JR, you and I are on the same page this week. It seems like we are. It seems like we are on the same page. Kat, I saw a thing somewhere saying Indy has lost their last like 8 week 1 games or something along the line. Something along that line. Something to keep an eye on. That's not great. The stat was just rookie QBs, but also said the Colts are 0-7 against the spread in the first game of the season. Don't like that. Gio says Bears suck. Caleb is going to be a bust. All USC quarterbacks have been busts since Carson Palmer. Gio also saying Titans spent a lot of money this offseason. That's true. They definitely did. And Kat, this Bears team will be interesting, I believe it is. It's part of this chat is hidden by the heart. Oh, will def be interesting. Okay. Yeah, they will. Absolutely. I mean, so many changes on the offensive side. You got to see for the first couple of games how that comes together. Because you can bring all those players in. Doesn't necessarily mean it makes them a team. And Matt, the NFL fanatic, chips in with, like the Titans roster, do not believe in Mayo Man Will Levis. That's the world's worst superhero. I love that. That's fantastic. Matt, 10 points for that one, my friend. I like that a lot. Let's jump ahead to Sunday Night Football. The Los Angeles Rams in Detroit taking on the Detroit Lions. Now, Detroit, I have firmly got them as a playoff contender. I think most people definitely do. In fact, I imagine I'll get a little bit of pushback for not bumping them up into like the truly elite, like Super Bowl contender. I still have some trouble with that defense. I think that defense still needs some work before you kind of bump them up. And then people are going to scream at me, Dallas. I get you. I hear you. I hear you. The Rams. Now, the Rams, I'm going to get some pushback for the fact that I only put them as a fringe team because the Rams are like a sexy pick to get to the NFC title game. Matt Stafford for MVP, those calls are out there on social media. People definitely think this Rams team is going to overperform where I've got them. But at the same time, how many of those same people that are calling for like, oh, it's the Rams year, how many of those same people are drinking the Blake Corum will be the top running back Kool-Aid and Kyron Williams is just going to be the punt returner? Like, I feel like people have a feeling here about the Rams that's not reality. I don't think the Rams are as good as some people think they are. I don't think Kyron Williams is as bad as some people think he is. I feel like the conversation about the Rams is weird. I just think it's weird. That said, I mean, look, Lions at home, they're one of the best home teams in the league over the last couple of seasons. It's tough to bet against them in this spot. I'm going to grab the Detroit Lions here at home to get the win over the Rams. Detroit's laying -3.5, which feels like a bit of a fishy number because you got to buy that extra half point. But I think there's going to be so much scoring in this game. That's another problem I have with the Rams. I don't think their defense is as good as some other people seem to think that it is. There's going to be so much scoring in this game. I don't mind buying that extra half point. So -3.5, I'll go ahead and lay that on Detroit. Total in the game is 51. And as Gio has just pointed out in the chat, Rams-Lions game sails over the total. You bet it does, Gio. I've got this game getting to 60 points. So 51, I got no problem with that at all. Lots of scoring in this game as far as I'm concerned. 33-27 in favor of the Detroit Lions. Lions win. Lions cover the -3.5. Give me the over on the 51-point total. All right, we've only got 4 games left before we then talk about the last game of the week, which is the Monday Night Football game between Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. But before we get there, last 4 games before we talk about that. Division matchup of the AFC West is up next. The Las Vegas Raiders in Los Angeles taking on a Chargers team. Talk about a team that's undergone a lot of change. Out the door, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, totally gone, totally out the door. Justin Herbert, with his plantar fasciitis, is still there. And you've got a Harbaugh on the bench. So, what does that mean? Far as I'm concerned, what that means for this Chargers team is they're going to run the ball, and they're going to run the ball a lot. And Quentin Johnston, who they drafted last year, I guess, is going to have another frustrating season as far as I'm concerned. They brought in an interesting wide receiver prospect in Ladd McConkey. I think he could legitimately be their number 1 receiver, like in short order. But how much are they actually going to throw the ball? Justin Herbert can run if his foot holds up. But they've got, I guess it's going to be Gus Edwards as their top back. But they've got J.K. Dobbins in that backfield. They just drafted a running back as well in the 3rd, 4th round, I think it was. Vidal, I think. Like, they've got so much depth at running back that I just kind of feel like it's going to be this rotating cast of characters running the ball behind what I think is supposed to be a pretty good offensive line, is at least a very good offensive line running the football. They took Joe Alt in the first round of the draft, I believe. Like, they really want to focus on the run game. Again, it's another team where I kind of have to see it. And if you look on the other side with the Raiders, I kind of know what I'm getting with the Raiders. As weird as it is to say, they're a team that I've definitely maligned over the years. But I know what I'm getting. I know what Gardner Minshew is as a starting quarterback. I know what I'm getting from Devontae Adams. I know what I'm getting out of the majority of that team on offense and on defense. I'm going to take what I know. So I'm going to take the Raiders. I'm going to take the Raiders in this game outright. I think the Raiders defense, little underrated, at least underrated by me. I think good enough to win this game in week 1 before the Chargers really kind of have a chance to gel under this new regime and new formula. Give me the Raiders outright. Vegas goes into LA and beats the Chargers. On the line, the Chargers are laying -3. So give me the +3 points there on the Las Vegas Raiders. And even with a total of 40.5, which is one of the lowest totals of the week, Gio's been talking about it in the chat here, as well as Kat. Take every Raiders game under this year. Very good defense and terrible offense. Chargers will absolutely run the ball. The rookie Alt is a monster on that O-line. This game has under written all over it. Gus and JK like to rotate injuries. This is coming from Kat. It's Gus's turn to miss like 6 to 8 games, probably. So yeah, under. Definitely an under in this game. And I'm sensing like a weird score because the whole AFC West is just like the Borderlands universe to me. Like I can never project this division properly. So I'm going to go like 18-17, like something silly. Maybe a last second field goal wins this game, but 18-17 for the Raiders is how I'm going. Under on the points, +3, and the Raiders win outright. For those keeping track at home, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 upsets that I've predicted so far. Up next, the Denver Broncos traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Cat saying, you love your upsets. I do. The Denver Broncos traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. The Broncos are a team that still, even after like drafting Bo Nix, I still think they're a team that's kind of in that bottom tier. I don't quite think they're a fringe team yet. I kind of need to see the first couple of weeks of the season. Maybe they do kind of push up. One thing that I do know, they just paid Patrick Surtain today, completely reset the market for all defensive backs. They threw a lot of money at him. I think it was 24 mil per year, which was like 3 mil higher than Jair. Like they threw all the money at Surtain, and he deserves it, and he earned it. So despite the fact, though, that I have Seattle as a fringe team, which I think they deserve to be, and despite the fact that I have Denver as a bottom team, and Denver, historically, not a fantastic road team. Seattle, historically, very good team at home. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos in an upset. And the reason that I'm doing this is I wanna. Like, that's my answer. I'm taking this upset because I want to. I am taking this upset specifically because of the line. Seattle's laying -6. What has Seattle done? What has Seattle done this offseason to take a league average efficient offense, slightly above league average efficient defense, and say they should be laying 6 points against almost anybody in week 1? I don't see that. So that line just smells like surströmming to me. It smells like the worst thing that you can possibly give in week 1, because I think people are going to look at that and go like, I guess the Seahawks are better. So I guess we'll take, and this is nothing against the Seahawks. I love DK Metcalf. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think, is going to take a step forward this year. I'm higher on Ken Walker than basically everybody last year that said, like, oh, Zach Charbonnet's there. That's Ken Walker, who, blah, blah, blah. That's what they're doing to Kyron Williams this year. Look how that turned out. Seattle's got pieces. No question about it. That line just stinks like rotten fish. So something screams trap game here. That's what I think it is. I think Denver goes into Seattle week 1 and pulls one of the biggest upsets of week 1. Again, week 1 loves their upsets. Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos go into Seattle and beat the Seahawks outright. So obviously, Seattle laying -6. Give me the +6 on Denver. No question in my mind. Total in this game set at 42. I like the under here. I think points are at a premium in this game. Give me like a 20-16, something like that. Under on the 42 points, +6, and Denver wins the game outright. Maybe a touchdown in the last, 2 minutes swings this thing. I like the Broncos. The Washington Commanders traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Bucks. Washington, even though they brought in Jaden Daniels, who I think is going to be big this year, I think he's a definite upgrade for that offense. And I like Brian Robinson Jr. I think he's going to be kind of a under the radar RB1, but I think he's certainly able to produce at that level. That defense is not good. That defense is not good, and it's not going to be good. Like, they were among the least efficient defenses in the league, and actually would have been the least efficient defense in the whole league if the Carolina Panthers didn't exist last year. The Tampa Bay Bucks are not a prolific offense, but they've got pieces that can run up some numbers on you. That connection with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, that connection is there. Rachaad White can do some damage. They brought in Cade Otton in the draft at tight end, who I think is actually going to have a pretty solid season. Yeah, it's Cade Otton. I think he's going to have a really solid season this year. They brought in Bucky Irving as a backup running back, who I think is going to contribute in year 1. And that Bucks defense is very, very good. So I definitely like Tampa Bay here. And they're not like, if Tampa Bay would have been favored by -6, I would love it. I would lay that -6 and not think a second thing about it. That is not. It's Seattle, right? Tampa's only laying -3.5 against a worse team than Denver. So give me that -3.5 all day long. Feel great about it. Total in that game, 43.5 points. I like the under here. I don't think this game gets to 40. So give me under 43.5 points in Tampa, Washington. Let's go like 24-13, something like that. 2-possession win. I like it. Tampa wins. Tampa covers. Under on the points. There's some folks going wild in the chat for that Denver upset pick. And the last game we're going to look at before we get to the Monday nighter between the Jets and 49ers is the Dallas Cowboys in Cleveland taking on the Browns. Help me out here. I understand that, like, that offense in Dallas is like kind of CeeDee Lamb and everybody else. Kind of get that. No disrespect to, I think it's, who is it, Brandon Cooks, who's like their number 2 receiver. Like, you brought back Zeke. Okay. But explain to me how the Cleveland Browns are the favorite in this game. That makes no sense to me at all. Like, I don't get, other than the fact that, like, Cleveland's a pretty good home team, But like, I think, again, I look at the Dallas Cowboys as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. People are going to laugh at that. That's the way I look at them. I don't understand how Cleveland's a 2.5-point favorite. Like, if this game was in Dallas, I would expect the Cowboys to be laying like 6.5. I know people are very high on that Browns defense. I don't like, I think CeeDee's going to eat them alive. I really do. Maybe I'm totally out to lunch on this. I reserve the right to be wrong in all things. My high school history teacher taught me that. Reserve the right to be wrong. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't get it. I'm all over Dallas in this game. I'm heavily on the Dallas Cowboys in this game. When I saw that I was getting plus money and this would be an upset, I was like, that's the easiest upset to pencil in of the whole week. The Dallas Cowboys on the road in Cleveland, who, again, I think Cleveland's like a fringe playoff team. So you're going to give me plus money on a team that I think is a Super Bowl contender? Okay. Good looking out. Yeah, Dallas for the win here, for sure. On the line, Cleveland's laying -2.5, so give me the +2.5. I got no problem with that at all. Total in this game set at 41. I do like this to be a game like in the mid 40s. Give me like a 27-17. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me at all. So 27-17 Dallas. Give me the over. Give me the +2.5 and the Cowboys to win outright. And the final game of the week. Aaron Rodgers returns to the New York Jets, traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. This is a stroke of genius, by the way, by the schedule makers. Having the California kid return for his first game action since rupturing his Achilles in California, saying like, we need to keep him the hell away from his home field. So where can he go? Oh, San Francisco. Let's do that. It's a stroke of genius. I really, really like it. The Jets, I'm not as high on as a lot of other people. If Aaron can give them a full healthy season, obviously their offense takes a big step forward. People talk about this defense as being like one of the best defenses in the NFL. I can buy that. I don't necessarily know. Like, are we talking top 5? I'd probably go top 10, which is in and of itself fine. I just don't know that I agree with the top 5 conversation. Again, another instance where maybe I'm totally out to lunch. And that's okay. It happens. I think the Niners are a legit Super Bowl contender. They got the Brandon Ayuk drama behind them, ideally. An ideally healthy Christian McCaffrey on their home field where they have been dynamite, exceptionally good. Jets have to cross the country. I like the Niners here. I like the Niners here for sure. This could have been another upset pick, possibly, but I like the Niners. San Fran wins, and I actually have the Niners covering the -4 as well. It's more than a field goal. It is a little bit more to pay, but I think they cover the -4. Total in this game set at 44. I did originally take the under here, but I think the more I kind of thought about it, the more I thought with the Niners win, I know they'll cover this number, and in order to cover this number, Like Aaron's probably going to score a couple of touchdowns. And there's Brees. So if they get to 21, the Niners have to get to this number, which I think they can. So I'm going to wind up taking the over here. I don't love this over because these two defenses are very good. So I don't love this over, but I think in order for the game to go the way I think it's going to go, it's got to go over the point total. So over 44 points in San Francisco, New York. Give me like a 27-21. Niners win. Niners cover the -4 and over on the 44-point total. Ladies and gentlemen, there are your picks for week 1 in the NFL in 2024. I think that was 7 upsets. Because once again, if you look back at week 1 historically, it's like 6, 7, 8, maybe more. Week 1 is the home of upsets. Week 1 is the week where Vegas legit doesn't quite know what they're doing yet. And that's, you look back at like the last 5-6 years, that's been the case. So let's lean into that. Let's expect that. Let's see what happens. Those are my picks for week 1 of 2024. That's it for me. Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out the show in week 1, and we will see you again for week number 2. All right, folks, that's the audio version of the podcast now taken care of. And we'll just hang out here for a few minutes. So let me have it in the chat. Which one of those picks did you hate the most? I feel like it's going to be Denver and Seattle. Like, that just feels to me like that's what people are going to look at and be like, you're crazy. Let's see. Let's go back in the chat here. Kat says 15-11. Say it, you won't. That was the score in the Raiders game? That's a possibility for sure. Kat says you love your upsets. Martin, Justin, you certainly picked the most upsets of all my friends. Beautiful. Brew and Steel in the chat, a longtime viewer, says, yo, just signed up. So excited. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Kat, you love your upsets. It's true. Broken ankle. Are we sure it's just water in the mug? Well, it's just water. It's definitely just water. It might be water off the edge of Captain Morgan's boat, but it still counts as water. Brew and Steel, my Steelers rebuilding team right now. Definitely. Yet curious if we can do anything with Russell Wilson. So I don't think it's going to be too much longer or too long into the season before Justin Fields takes over. Like, I think Russ has like a 4 to 6 week leash. Like, he's going to go into the start of the season as the starter. I think that's about his leash, is like 4 to 6 weeks. And if it's not going well in those 4 to 6 weeks, they will go to Justin Fields, because that's not a team that wants to miss the playoffs. Chip in a chair. That's what they want. And if it's not going well, like I say, in those first 6 weeks, they ain't going to be scared to pull the trigger on that. Gio, Denver's one of the few games we disagree with. Big number, but a rookie quarterback making his first start in a hostile stadium in Seattle will be hard to overcome. You're not wrong. Again, you're right. Like, rookie quarterback making his first start, it's definitely a thing. Bo Nix playing at Oregon will help him deal with the Seattle crowd due to him playing Washington. That's interesting. That line's a trap from Vegas the other way. I would lay 10 in that game. Interesting. I definitely won't rule that out. I'd rather take the Pats over Cincy than Denver over Seattle. Woo! Really? That's nuts. That's I didn't expect to see that. Okay. Put respect on Oregon State legend Brandon Cooks. My apologies. Oregon State legend Brandon Cooks. Broken Ankle says Cowboys for the upset. Cowboys O-line has steadily gotten worse every year. Dallas won't contend for the Super Bowl. That's not going to break my heart. That's just kind of the way I look at them coming into the season. But if they don't contend for the Super Bowl, I ain't too worried about it. Gio says Jets upset the Niners. Martin, I guess Dallas Cleveland would have easily made your metal picks silver, gold, platinum. I mean, I don't know, honestly. With the methodology that I used to use for those, I don't think it would have, because it smelled so fishy. I probably would have avoided it. If I was doing like the old school platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks like I used to do, I would have gone since he's the platinum pick for sure. Bet you Tampa's probably the gold pick. I would have gone probably Atlanta silver, and then probably Detroit bronze. That probably would have been the way I would have gone. Jets have the top D in the NFL. Sauce and the rest of the CBs are so good, they allow the rushers to get to the quarterback. I definitely agree that Sauce is one of the best DBs in the NFL. And when his contract comes up, he will inevitably reset the market again. So that I totally get. Again, I don't know. I'm still not sold on that whole defense as like a top elite unit. But again, I reserve the right to be wrong. Good job, JR. Thank you. Great show as always, Justin. Appreciate that. That Denver pick is my least favorite pick. I can see Denver winning, says Martin. I'm rooting for my Steelers, though. Gio says the water JR's drinking is Mr. Leahy water. Dude, I don't think you're on TikTok. I don't know whether you would be on TikTok or not, but I have been getting fed so many Trailer Park Boys clips on TikTok lately. Like multiple, it's like people discovering Trailer Park Boys for the first time. So it's all over my feed. Is just clips from the best seasons of Trailer Park Boys. So it has renewed my love for that show. So it's so funny that you mentioned Mr. Leahy. It's just really funny. Usually about half the teams that make the playoffs don't make it the next year. Martin, thanks for sharing the metal picks. I would have Buffalo over Arizona as one of them. That's probably not unfair. Gio says not on TikTok, JR. I'm 59. Good point. Gotcha. Trailer Park Boys, greatest show of all time. Dude, that show has one of the best like seasons 1 through whatever it is, like 6 or 7 maybe. Like this will be the last thing I'm going to look at, and then we're going to get you out of here. Trailer Park Boys wiki. Let's see. That show had 12 seasons. And I would say seasons like 1 through 6 are probably like 6 of the greatest TV seasons of all time. Season 7, I was a little more lukewarm on. That was the last year on Showcase. And then they did 5 years on Netflix, which I was kind of lukewarm on. But man, that first 6 seasons, chef's kiss. Such a good show. All right, my stream friends, thank you so much for stopping by for NFL Week 1, now on Wednesdays instead of on Tuesdays. Thank you so much for taking the time to not only stop in, but contribute. The chat was going the whole episode, which is always fantastic. Thank you so much for watching. Broken ankle. Season 1 was rough, very budget friendly. I mean, that's true. The budget was, but you like, it's like your firstborn child. Like it's you have a soft spot for that first season. It's like, man, I don't even know that these guys know what they're doing yet. But like, you just have a soft spot for that season. But artistically, didn't exactly look the greatest. So, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for checking out week 1 of the live streams. We're going to be here every Wednesday. Ideally, there may be a few that maybe we got to swap around, but we're looking at Wednesdays. I'm liking Wednesdays. I hope you guys are too. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out the show. We will see you again for week 2 next week.